the Nigerian economy. Today is June 30th, 2020, the last day for June, and indeed the last day for the first half of the year 2020. Today we'll be looking at the Commodities Exchange, and we'll be discussing around the activities there with the AFEX, the private commodities exchange that is really functional and carrying that space for the market in Nigeria. With me to lead conversations around the AFEX operations is the Vice President Commercial Operations, Mr. Hemense Orkar. Nice to have you on the show.
Thank you. Good morning.
Yes, good morning.
Yes, good morning. And with me also to lead this conversation and take it to the next level is my co-anchor and CEO of Frontier Africa Reports, Mr. Boason Omofaye. Good morning, Boason.
Good morning. Thank you very much. A privilege being here with you again, also. Good morning,
yes. So quickly, let's get on to let's go on to Hemense. I mean, this has been a defining period, first half of the year, defined by the biggest risk, the COVID-19 pandemic. How were you able to carry out the operations in a seamless manner amidst the impact of the pandemic?
Yeah, thank you very much. It's definitely been an unprecedented experience for us at AFEX. The only sort of consolation is that we're all going through it as a nation together, and so we continue to feel for our farmers, which are most impacted by it. So it's been an incredibly challenging operating environment. I think the key sort of principles for me has been resilience and perseverance. And so we've relied heavily on our field staff and the wide network that we have across the country to be able to execute on our behalf when we are unable to actually get to the physical location. We've also been grateful and been leveraging government assistance in the form of passes, enabling us to move when we have to. And finally, it's just the relationships we've built with our suppliers. So when one supplier cancels and is unable to meet our demand for fertilizer, we're able to work with the relationship with suppliers and be able to meet our farmers' needs.
Okay, all right, very nice to hear. Mr. Boason, you've heard what said. The farmers have been the concern, and they've been really trying to see how the whole system is effective.
Yes, I want to. That's very. That's quite disheartening to know. But again, how does this impact of the COVID on the farmers? How does it impact the operations of the AFEX in terms of those Nigerian commodities that you have the financial papers being tradable on your platform? In what specific part of the value chain within the agri space do you have the most impact during this COVID-19 period?
Sure. So I start off with the production cycle. Right? So first of all, the farmers having access to get to their farms has been a big challenge. So being able to congregate in number and mass, being able to move from the home to the villages has been a challenge. All this is going to long-term affect the supply of commodities that actually come to our market. Second is also in terms of input, right? The availability of fertilizer, of urea, any of these that the farmers need to grow has been challenging, right? There's been all that. So those have been the two big challenges that we've seen so far.
Okay, so we've seen a bit of we've seen a bit of policies and actions from the government since March, to be specific, from the central bank, from the Ministry of Agriculture, from the fiscal authorities, I mean the government at the center and what have you. What encouragements are you seeing from these various policies and actions towards the agri sector that you think will be changing things moving forward? Is it the relaxing of the lockdown, or the easing, as it were, interstate movement of goods? What do you see encouraging here before we look at what could be a bit more challenging moving forward?
Sure. So I'll say that this whole situation has brought a lot of focus and attention to the agriculture sector, right? So that's something that we welcome, and it's much needed. And we wish we didn't have to go through an event like this to kind of channel that energy towards this sector. In terms of encouragement, I've been quite encouraged by what I've seen. There's several schemes launched by the government in terms of credit funding and access to finance for processors and millers. So there was a mass agricultural scheme that was launched, I believe, in the tune of close to 500 billion naira. That's been encouraging. There's been special agricultural zones for production that are being set up in strategic zones across the country, which has always been encouraging. All I say in all is that there just needs to be more of a concerted and coordinated effort between the private sector and the government in terms of providing a solution to this issue.
Mm. Wow, that's very, very critical at this time. And for a lot of discussions we've had in the program, Boason and the rest of the experts in the agro space have continued to raise the importance of transportation and logistics processes to be eased for agri to really thrive. From your perspective, Mr. Hemense, transportation, logistics, and processing, and indeed storage, these are like the whole gamut of what can really make the agro sector valuable and, of course, improve the activities of the commodities exchange. Are you seeing more efforts in terms of achieving this, from government policy down to stakeholders being able to be involved more?
Sure, we could definitely use the more crowding space. And like I mentioned before, this experience, this corona has exposed huge shortfalls and gaps in terms of this entire value chain. From the transportation angle, a lot of heavy road traffic is being done. It would be great if there were alternatives to that kind of situation that would be able to ease the movement from goods back and forth. So we see huge gaps in that area. And our response to that has again been looking to alternatives, right? So if Apapa Port is congested, we have to look to Port Harcourt to see what can be done in that area as well. But with that trade-off comes an increase in price and cost. As far as storage and whatnot, like storage facilities are there, but haven't really been made use of, right? So this has also highlighted the need for more investment in food security for the nation. What is our sustainability plan? How much do we have to store in times when the borders will be closed and people have been relying on imported goods? In terms of from the private sector, I know that clients that traded with us earlier and used our storage facilities are laughing to the bank right now as commodity prices have skyrocketed. But they're able to draw down from commodities that they stored out at the beginning of the season at a much cheaper price than what they're going for in the current market
today. Okay, I want to ask you, in terms of the AFEX commodity trading platform itself, did you see increased, was there increased trading activity during this period, March to date? How easy was it for traders and dealers and farmers to access your platform, to get trades done, to get their deals done, to get delivery and all of that? Talk us through this on the side of your platform, your trading engine, the back end, and all of that, the entire infrastructure or architecture of trading that AFEX Commodity has in place.
Sure, thank you. So it was quite an unprecedented event in that we saw both a decrease in supply and demand for our services as well, right? So we've seen a huge skyrocketing in prices now that happened as a result of Corona. Specifically across like the stable crops that we have, and then also on some of the crops that we exported as well, as other supply chains were disrupted, say for ginger supply in China. So in terms of our market, it's been, we've seen a scarcity in terms of demand. Farmers are unable to get to the market to actually sell their product. And with less farmers being able to access these markets, prices would then go up. As farmers are actually trying to get to our different locations in our warehouses, they're being slapped with different transportation taxes along the way. All that is making prices also rise as well. And then finally, with our off-takers, as well. So we've seen a huge shift in that area.
Okay, I want to, if Otto allows me, just one.
No, you can go on, Mr. Boason. You can go on.
Yes. Direct a short question to MS. Do you think that we face is food insecurity a problem? Certain international organizations saying that, look, there's a problem of food production in Nigeria and what have you. So I want you to look very closely at agricultural processes, our farming, demography in terms of our cities, towns, and villages, and all of that, and give me a straight answer here based on being the man on the ground with the farmers and the markets and others within the value chain. Does Nigeria really face a food sustainability problem?
Okay. So as straight as I can say, in the short term, no. So we do believe that we have enough commodities on ground to last us in the near to medium term. So the next 3 to 6 months or so will be fine. So nobody understands or nobody knows, unless they have a crystal ball, how long this situation is going to last, and then how long then the implications of that would be. In the longer term, it's definitely something that we need to be worried about and start trying to take measures that we can do to mitigate that.
Okay, I mean, when
so
you look at
Nigeria has what it takes to feed itself, at least in the short term.
Yeah.
Correct.
Thank you. Otto.
Okay, so short term, we have enough to feed, but long term, we need to really plan. Let's look at the regulatory environment. We know that the Securities and Exchange Commission last year hosted a forum for commodities exchanges in the country. I don't know if you're able to lay hands or see that the whole result of that conversation. How's the regulatory environment been for the improvement and deepening of commodities exchanges in the country, based on the fact that you're the most functional, and we also have the Abuja, and Lagos is really working out its own commodities exchange?
Yeah, correct. Thank you. So that's very vital to the success of any exchange as the regulatory players. And what they're able to do is establish confidence in the market that the money that is being received is going to be put to good use, and the consumer is going to be protected. And I think this cash is essential for the agricultural sector to grow and expand. Because with this, we can then offer a large amount of services and products that are going to attract more players into the market, larger size financiers, the asset managers in Lagos, potentially down the line, pension funds as well, to be attracted and come to our market and invest with them. We have a series of products that are dedicated and targeted towards them. A trade finance note in which participants process as the millers. You can go out to the market, borrow funds, and then hand it over to these processors to use to supply and meet all their trade financing needs, and then return that money back into the hands of investors. Same thing with the input notes that we offer. So we're able to go out to the market, raise funds, use those funds to buy critical inputs in a timely manner. I'm talking fertilizers, seeds, and whatnot. Loan those out to the farmers. Sorry, okay. Loan those out to the farmers, and then return the funds back to the investors at the end of the season once the farmers pay back those loans. So I think this association with the capital markets ecosystem as a whole is vital and important for us.
So Hemense, what? Okay.
Hemense.
Okay, Boason,
sorry,
go on. You can go on.
Go on. I just don't want to forget this. Going back a little bit to the fiscal and monetary authorities' interventions, policies, pronouncements, and actions within the agriculture space. Where do you really see the missing link here, as someone who deals with the farmers on the ground and those of us who are blue collars, myself and Otto, on Broad Street when it comes to the both ends, both the upstream and the downstream. So you can see everyone in between, from the farmers upstream, then to those of us who how they fancy food in the restaurants and at home. So where do you think is the missing link here in getting agriculture right in Nigeria? We've been throwing monies, okay? We've been throwing policies at it for decades. And like the electricity sector and other sectors, we don't seem to just get a headway here. We have the arable land, we have the climate, we have the soil, we've got the people, we got everything as it were. And funding for agriculture had always been on the books of the central bank. For example, since the commodity trading houses of those days of the 60s and 70s. And the interventions by the central bank in agriculture is up to 5-6 decades. So here, or do you see anything new now on the table? Is it the AFEX Borrowers Program? Is it the plan for non-interest loans, which the central bank is thinking as a new framework for farmers or for agriculture sector? So when we say food, whatever in Nigeria, are we talking about farming or we're talking about agriculture? What exactly is it? So is it more of the fiscal side or on the monetary side?
So I would say it's on the monetary side, but maybe I give a bit of context to that. So my answer would be we need structure, we need knowledge, and then we need accountability in the sector, right? So with structure, we need like a set environment or infrastructure in which people can invest. They know their money is going to go to the right cause and to the actual production of the crop or the commodity, and it's actually going to be put to good use. We need knowledge in terms of the knowledge of the people in the sector. Do they actually understand what they're investing in, who they're investing in, and how to actually have a multiplier effect on the use of that cash? And finally, accountability, right? So with a lot of these sponsored government programs, to start off well, there's a lot of fanfare, but after a couple of years, they kind of die down and you don't really know what. But I think if we get these three things in place, all that is going to lead to scale. So this notion of only investing in people that only have 1 or 2 hectares, that's not really how a country grows, right? So what can we do to provide an enabling environment which more money is going to come into the sector? We're going to have farmers that are participating and producing at a higher level, and that's how you're going to have long and everlasting growth. And I think to put a plug in, that's really at the top of our mind at AFEX. So we've developed an app called ComX. It's online. It's standardized. Someone like you, sir, can sit in your home and buy a sack of maize at the start of the season, hold on to the maize until mid-year the next year, and then sell it at the profit. Whereas in the past, you'd have to call up your mother in the village somewhere and ask her to hold a bag in some shanty hut, and you don't even know the condition of that, right? But I think with this, we're bringing more structure and standardization to the entire industry.
I mean, that's nice to hear. Leveraging technology, I was going to come to that. And you have an app, and this is what Mr. Boason has also been talking about: market stakeholders, leveraging digital technology, reaching out to millennials, reaching out to the population to be able to assess market products.
I agree. I agree with you, Otto. I'm just piqued by the fact that for Hemense, we've had a lot of these projects, initiative in agriculture. We've had with the World Bank, we have the Fadama project. We have the agricultural development projects, the early 80s.
Yes.
Across states and all of that massive. We've had World Bank has been particularly supportive of agriculture in Nigeria, which goes to the rural places. I was a young boy in school in the early 80s when some of these projects were on the ground. Egg was cheap, these farm products were cheap. Folks at the local level were employed to work under the ADP program. Then you find, if you go up north, then you find the Fadama projects across states and all of that. And all this suddenly technically evaporated. And now we're back to central bank funding agriculture through AFEX Borrowers Program and what have you. And I wonder what happened. How come we never got it right in such early days We're talking about the early 80s here.
Good policies.
40 years ago. And here we are today, we're still the same issues again. I don't understand it.
Well,
so I mean, and this is just my quick 2 cents. I mean, I strongly believe that in order to make it sustainable, it has to be private sector led, right? It can be government supported, government funded, but it really needs to be private sector led to make
right. Not government wholly driven, but private sector led approach.
Correct.
Very, very interesting. Let's look at partnership. I mean, amongst capital market stakeholders, we've seen AFEX partner with FMDQ on product development. Speak further to this and other partnerships you're having to leverage the markets.
Sure. So let me just start from a broad basis. Partnership with capital market players has been a huge untapped market for the agricultural sector, and I think I see it as vital and will be beneficial to both sides. For starting, is a new source of capital. It's quite cheaper than, say, borrowing money from any of the commercial banks, and at the same time, we're able to dip in a large ocean, right? Because there's a huge piles of money out there that are looking for investable assets and vehicles. And so that's beneficial from AFEX side, but also from the capital market side, right? It's an alternate asset class for them to actually invest in, which is agriculture. They do not have too much knowledge and understanding of it, and that's where we try and bridge the gap. And we can also provide them with secured, structured vehicles in which they can actually invest in. The partnership with FMDQ is a special one. We're creating a special purpose vehicle in which we can actually take a stake in any of the trades that we fund, and be able to open the door to collect money and provide it to processors. And we're going to create this asset-backed commercial paper in which we'll provide loans to processors and millers on the back that they actually have as we talked about. And this is actually going to be huge for the sector of that economy. Right. So with that, they're going to be able to have access to huge amounts of funds at the start of the season, go out to the market, some large amounts of commodities that we need, store it with, and then use it throughout the entire season on that loan, and cheaper interest rates than they would have and just going to a bank. So I think the relationship is important and quite vital.
Yeah, I mean, when you look at Boason being in the Chicago Board of Exchange, the Commodities Exchange, I think that's a global template for how exchanges should thrive. I mean, for you, Hemense, what are those things you see from there that we can really tap in and really leverage and deepen our commodities market ecosystem?
Sure. So I mean, the key and the start is digitization, right? It's kind of sad that, you know, at this day and age, if I want to pick up a commodity, I have to either pick up the phone and call somebody, or actually go to the market and actually exchange hands. And so how do we digitize the entire ecosystem to allow for transparency, fluidity, speed of execution, and therefore growth? I think it's huge and significant. And then I keep on coming back to this theme of trust and accountability, because that's huge. And it doesn't matter if you created an entire ecosystem that works, that's efficient and viable, but you can't trust the participants to actually do what they have been contractually obligated to do in the system. So I think those two things are key to how we can actually grow this sector and all thrive.
A quick one, Hemense, from me, Boason here. How soon do you think we can be able to do livestock commodities trading? Is it a long shot from now?
That's a game changer, Mr. Boason. That's a game changer.
Yeah, okay, you folks can guess where I'm going.
Yeah.
With livestock, whether they are cattle, you find a number of folks now who are young people who are doing aquaculture, those who are doing piggery, and all of that. So, is it difficult for us as a commodity exchange to
Yeah. So we're still trying to get our...
The president has a couple of cows, by the way, when he came into office, President Buhari. So by the time he goes back in 2023 to his hometown, what if those cows or cattle that Mr. President has been on a livestock or commodity exchange, for example, and part of his retirement is making sure that these cows are well and good and that he can trade these cows on the commodity exchange?
Well, not a bad idea. That's a good idea. Livestock. Yeah.
It's fantastic. It's fantastic. It's fantastic. So we're still trying to do grains and dry oil seeds, you know, and you're already trying to take us multiple layers ahead. No, so it's fantastic. It needs to be done. In terms of what it takes to get to that, it's tough to say, right? And honestly, I can't really project how many more years it takes. I would say that there just needs to be a lot more done that's outside of our hands to be able to create an enabling environment for such a project to proceed, right? So I'm talking about access to water, access to roads, there's access to controlled air temperature storage. There's just a lot that goes into producing this, and especially producing it at a standardized level. So one cow in Maiduguri may be different from the size of the cow in those states, for instance, right? And yet you want to trade these. So how do you get that transparency? So yeah, it's fantastic, and I pray it comes soon. I just think it's gonna take a little while before we get there.
Okay, I mean, Hemense, I hear you very well, because that's something that the Agri Ministry through the National Livestock Plan. I remember the Vice President talked about that transmission plan. We need to see those things come on board, synergize with the markets. But looking at the second half of the year as it begins from tomorrow, agri sector grew by 2.2% first quarter of 2020, according to National Bureau of Statistics, and it was driven by crop production. What are your projections for the second half of the year? What do you see happening in terms of the agro space as it impacts the activities of the Commodities Exchange?
Yeah, so unfortunately, I think we have to look outside of agriculture for this. So it depends, and this is a kind of scapegoat answer, but it depends on what happens in the broader economy, right? So it depends how soon this corona epidemic comes to an end. It depends on what the production and the yield at the end of the farming season is going to look like. All those things are going to affect the food security of the nation. It really depends on looking at a macro level, in terms of economic activity that's going to take place in the nation, and the decline that is likely going to come. Will lead to a decline in demand, which will lead to lower income from farmers, right? So it's quite difficult to project. It's going to be depending on what happens on the actual.
So Hemense, is that your background, or okay? Okay, so it's very interesting to hear what Hemense has said, Mr. Boason, and it just shows that it's very critical at this time for all the policies in the agro ministry to synergize with even the markets, because what you're talking about is a good idea, livestock trading, but that has to be the whole gamut of the value chain working together.
Look, also, we can, when we talk about agriculture, we just need to put our hearts to it.
Yeah.
Because we can't keep funding farming, agriculture and all of that, and we tend to focus on that because it's crop production.
Yeah.
Livestock, as the flip side of the coin in agriculture, ought to also be brought to the mainstream as well. We need to mainstream it as well, so that one side feeds the other.
Yeah.
We need the feed mills, okay? We need the feed mills.
Agro-based industries, yeah.
In farming, agriculture, right? That could serve as feedstock for the animal husbandry. That's what we call it in simple textbook, whatever, in secondary school, in colleges that we attended. So animal husbandry had always been part of it. And this is traditional to us, and it's all over the country. There's no single part of Nigeria, even places where it's difficult to get the arable land or whatever, you find animal husbandry or livestock going on there for families. So, look, it's been done in other parts of the world. It shouldn't be so difficult for us. Someone just needs to get down to do the dirty work. And when I mean the dirty work, I mean to go get his or her fingers dirty by making sure that we can do it. Sometimes we seem to love the sexy blue collar thing. I'm getting a little bit old here. But the problem is this: we need to find a way. We need to find folks who are dedicated. We need the Ministry of Agriculture and others to say, look, how do we mainstream livestock? Look at livestock fields years ago. We can develop more of these companies that can be on the exchange, that can be on AFEX, that you can create jobs. Yeah. Once you start producing animal feeds or whatever, Otto, you can imagine the number of handworks, the farm hands that you will need. Now we're trying to create jobs on Empower, on computers for youth. Look, we have jobs in agriculture. There are millions and millions and millions untold. We'll create companies, we'll create industries within that value chain, small industries that are close to the villages and townships where we're talking about. That is the real thing. So we should all, I don't know when we'll be say, look, let's go off these jackets, okay? Let's move on and take a computer or a phone and go from town to town and villages to villages like the Jehovah's Witnesses people do, and go and knock on everybody's door and see what can we do to get livestock, animal husbandry. If someone don't start it, we will never get it done. It could be as rudimentary as it was 100, 200 years ago in US, but until we get it started, we will not really bring people. Now, see, we can create wealth for people at the base of the pyramid if we go to towns and villages through agricultural commodities. Okay? Not by buying stocks on a stock exchange. Folks who are our old father and grandmother and uncles in towns and villages, they are sitting on a number of assets from real estate to agriculture to animal husbandry. So we shouldn't, see, nature has given us everything. Right, and I'm sure Hemense will agree. We have nature. Nature has given us everything. These are traditional, these are things that are traditional to us. And these folks are sitting on this, look, it's only during the Leia festival or Christmas, whatever, you bring out a goat, whatever, you slaughter it. But these are assets that naturally on their own. How do we turn this into asset or wealth in their hands? And you'll be surprised we will have more formalized here that will make practice a lot for people, okay, that meat that we eat in terms of nutrition, in terms of health, in terms of whatever. That is what we need. That's what I would want to see.
All right. I mean, I hear very Boason, and
we've done some rice and cassava bread. Can we do something on animal husbandry and livestock the more?
Very important. Very important. Mr. Hemense, in 30 seconds, can you tell us what we should expect from AFEX second half of the year?
Sure, growth and excitement. So there's going to be a lot of fantastic new financial products that are coming up to the market. Highlight of that is going to be the asset-backed commercial paper that's going to be coming out Q4. There's going to be export finance notes, which will be amazing. which you can buy in Naira, dollar-denominated coupon payments in return, which is going to be fantastic. So look, at the end of the day, we're excited on this exchange. We think there's a lot of growth and opportunity, even in this circumstance that's a bit disheartening. So please, we look forward to you joining us and coming to trade with us as well.
Definitely, myself, Boason, will always join to engage and see how the commodities market grows. It's part of his big dream too, and we are all in it to make it thrive. Thank you very much, Mr. Hemense Orkar, Vice President, Commercial Operations, AFEX Commodities Exchange, for the time and engaging us on the activities in your space. And Mr. Boason Omofaye, co-anchor, CEO of Frontier Africa Reports, giving us again those nuggets for how we can grow commodities exchange and deepen agriculture and indeed improve our economy. Thank you all for joining us today.
My pleasure.
Thank you much for your time.
That'll be all for the WebTV Market Review program.
It's been an interesting month of June. We're looking forward to an interesting second half of the year 2020. You can join our website, www.prochange.com, to watch our videos, read our news reports and analysis. Till we come your way again, thank you for watching. Have a nice time and stay safe and happy new month of July ahead.